What's up, everyone? John Manson of Sea Red back again. Another update. Liberty football training camp. Flames are almost 2 full weeks into camp, a week and a half, more or less. So certainly a lot of position battles starting to shake out, and starting to get more and more information from the coaching staff and this team about what type of team we might have of the Liberty Flames for the Liberty Flames here in 2025. This week, wanted to answer some of your questions. Questions we received online on social media about your top concern or question mark or something you're trying to figure out unknown about this Liberty football team. And not surprised by the questions. They're the same ones I have for the most part, but kind of lump them in. Got a lot of similar type of questions, so we'll just lump them all into one in that category or on that topic, and we'll go through them and talk about them. Should we be worried about those questions, those topics? Does Liberty have the answers for them? And can those maybe turn into a strength or a positive for the team this year? So getting right into it, no surprise, but the most common question we had was on the quarterbacks. Even saw one question about, are we going to have a dreaded quarterback carousel? And can Liberty find the production out of the quarterback position? I don't think there's going to be a quarterback carousel, assuming the starter stays healthy. And I'm still going by the assumption that I think Ethan Vasco, the transfer from Coastal, I think he's going to win the job. From the little bit of time I've seen him practice, it looks like he's the leader in that room. From what we heard over the summer and in the off season, seems like he's the leader in that room. Also, there's he's the one with the most playing experience, certainly at the FBS level. Almost a 2-year starter. He started a lot when Grayson McCall was injured a couple years ago at Coastal, and started most of last season, or really all of last season, for the Chanticleers. So, another thing when we're thinking about quarterback, we should go back and remember how Liberty got to Vasco, how he came about. If you remember last December, in that December portal period, obviously Salter went into the portal. We thought Berger might be the guy, but he was dealing with injury at the time. Then we saw how things went in the bowl game, and obviously some of the injuries to blame there. But and Coach Chadwell said, yes, we're going after at least one quarterback, maybe 2 quarterbacks through the portal, and that ended up happening with Vasco and Merdinger. But if you remember, there was reports of the Texas A&M quarterback transfer, Sluka from UNLV, Holy Cross, who ended up at JMU, and another quarterback or two that Liberty was linked to. And based on what I heard at that time, and I haven't heard anything to dispute this, is that Liberty had the option to, I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but to choose which one of those 3 or 4 guys they wanted. Whether, I think was it Henderson, Jalen Henderson maybe from Texas A&M. Don't quote me on that. I didn't look it up. I should have. But Texas A&M quarterback transfer, and then also Matthew Sluka from UNLV, obviously was in the news a year ago with the NIL deal or issues that he had with the UNLV collective and UNLV team. So, but anyways, based on what I heard at that time, is that Liberty chose Vasco. Coach Chadwell and his staff went through all these guys, the meetings with them on campus, their film review, all the conversations they had with them and others that knew him. And Vasco was their guy that they felt the best about. I feel confident that Vasco's the right guy, that he fits this system well. I think he's a guy that, he had, I believe it was 4 50-yard rushing games last year at Coastal Carolina. So He might not have the top end speed or athletic ability that maybe a Caden Salter had, or maybe even a Malik Willis had, but I do think he can get the job done in that triple option attack. And again, I think I used this in our podcast a week or so ago. I hate to say he's a game manager because that has some negative connotations with it, at least in my mind. But I do think that's what he is. I don't think he's going to hurt us. I think he'll be able to keep us ahead of the chains and knock on wood, won't have a lot of turnovers. So we'll see. But I don't think there'll be a quarterback carousel. I'm confident that whoever it is, but assuming it's Vasco, excuse me, assuming it's Vasco, I think he'll be, he's a confident guy, capable guy, competent guy. And I think he'll be able to lead this offense and get the ball into the right guys' hands at the right times and make the right calls and the right reads. And also, he'll be able to lead this team, have that leadership and that edge that maybe we haven't had from the quarterback position recently. So I feel good about where we're at in the quarterback room. Again, I don't think, Malik Willis felt like whenever you had him, you had the best quarterback on the field in any game. So it felt like we had a chance to win even against a Virginia Tech or a Syracuse or Ole Miss or whoever it was that we were playing. Well, I don't think Vasco's quite to that level with his upside and potential. We're also not playing those teams on our schedule, right? I mean, our toughest opponent, JMU, maybe a Jack State in week 2 on the road, the defending Conference USA champs, even an Old Dominion. We don't play Western Kentucky, who's likely our biggest challenger in Conference USA. So it's not like, we know, and that's a whole nother conversation topic about the schedule, but we don't play those Power 4 conference teams where we need that next level potential from our quarterback. We just need a guy that can be better than the guy on the other side of the field. And I'm confident, again, we're early, but I'm confident Vasco can be that guy. Again, he hasn't been named the starter and likely won't. There won't be a starter named until we get later into August. But I do think that it's his job to lose, in my opinion. Keep it moving. Again, that was the most of the questions and comments we had were around the quarterback room. Got several or a few about running backs. Can Juju stay healthy? Can Juju be like Aaron Bedgood? And then just a running back room as a whole. I think, Quentin Cooley was that running back the last 2 years and the bell cow, right? I mean, he had over 1,000 rushing yards each of the last 2 years and, double-digit touchdowns and just somebody we felt like we didn't get the ball to him enough last year, even with the numbers he put up. I don't think we'll have necessarily that one guy this year. Not that the running game won't be as good and as potent. I think it will be. And I also think that this offense, once we get things figured out, just by the makeup of it, by this quarterback, I think this offense will be a run first, second, and third type of team. Like, we're not going to sit back there and air it out. Like, if you remember back to the 2023 season, there were games, the second half against Jacksonville State comes to mind where, if you remember that game, Jacksonville State was kind of an upstart and winning a lot of games and looked like it would be our first big challenge. But we went into halftime with the lead and came out in the second half and just pounded the rock. And I don't remember many passing plays called, but Jacksonville State couldn't stop us. I expect our offense, maybe we won't be that good running the ball because that offensive line in 2023 was next level. I think they have the potential to be that good this year. But I think we're going to go back to that pound the rock, run first, second, and third down, our run as our first, second, and third option. Not that we won't pass and we can't pass. I think we can. But I do think that's kind of like, that's what Coach Chadwell's offenses are kind of built off of, right? So I don't think you'll have one guy. I think you'll have Juju, Vaughn Blue, Caden Williams. Those are kind of like your first three that I think will be involved. Evan Dickens is another guy maybe even Malachi Fanon-Render, the true freshman. We'll see if we can get some more information on him in camp, how he's developing after having a full spring and summer with the team. And I do think that Juju's going to be more like that Aaron Bedgood role, where you use him in the pitch game, you use him in the slot, and get the ball out to him out in space. I think he'll probably just keep defenses honest, run some between the tackles, but mainly you're going to use Juju getting the ball to him out on the perimeter, in space, on the pitch, in the option game, in a similar role as Aaron Bedgood. And I think he has tremendous upside. I think he has a chance to lead this team in all-purpose yards. But again, staying healthy is a question mark for him. He wasn't able to stay healthy last year, so hopefully he can stay healthy. And then Von Blue, we've seen what he could do at times, especially as a true freshman, where he was really the top running back on this team. Those first few weeks before he went down to an injury in the game at Buffalo and before Quentin Cooley kind of emerged. So he has, Coach Chadwell said, breakout potential, maybe even all-conference type potential for Von Blue. And then Cade Williams, redshirt freshman, played some in the bowl game. I think we'll see him a lot as well too. And then Evan Dickens is kind of a wild card. Yes, I think there's reason for concern or question mark there at running back. I think we have the right pieces. I think the system fits, leads to having a strong rushing game. So I'm not overly concerned about it, but it's something we certainly will have to watch in the first 2, 3, 4 games of the season. I actually didn't get as many questions on the wide receivers as I expected to get. Did have 1 or 2 here and there. Who's going to be the third down go-to receiver? Who's going to be the guy you have to try to get to? In that room, that position was kind of, let us down, I think, as Liberty fans last year. Casey Kane, the transfer from UNLV, is a guy to keep an eye on. I also think Tyson Mobley, he has a chance to be strong. I think Jacob Jenkins as a tight end also has a chance maybe to have a good relationship and rapport with the quarterback, and to get that connection to where maybe he's a little bit of a go-to guy in the passing game. Also another guy that's maybe been under the radar a little bit and we haven't talked about as much is Adante Lee. He's another guy that came in highly touted, highly recruited, D2 Shaw University in the portal a year ago, and a lot of teams were after him. Coach Chadwell last year said that he needed a little bit more time in the weight room to kind of adjust to being at the FBS level, coming up from the D2 ranks. Seeing him so far in camp early, obviously, but he looks the part. He looks like he could be a playmaker, a weapon for the Flames on offense. You also got Reese Smith. So I think you got Reese Smith. I think you got a few different guys that can step into that role, but I thought that last year and it never really matriculated. So that is a concern, and we need somebody. I think we have a lot of guys that could be, that have potential to be that guy, to make this to not be a question mark, maybe even be a strength. But I do think as of today, that is probably the biggest question mark I have on this offensive side of the ball. Not necessarily the running back room, not necessarily quarterback room, not even the offensive line, but wide receiver. Can somebody or some ones step up there? And also got several questions about the defense. Can the defense take a step forward? You heard Coach Chadwell, which I was a little surprised to hear him say it, but he said this defense is the deepest it's ever been in his time here, and it's has a potential to be a dominant type of defense. I mean, there's 7 returning starters. Liberty returns around 75% of its production from the defensive side of the ball. Played a lot of guys last year. Watching practice, it's hard to try to figure out what the depth chart is looking like because they just rotate guys in almost not indiscriminately, just like constant rotation of players. It's hard to even say this group is the ones because I don't know if they're the ones because they just rotate them so much. So I think you got a few known commodities. Joe Carter at linebacker, Smart guy, kind of be the anchor, the captain of the middle of that defense. You also got Brylan Green and Corey Jones, some veterans in the secondary at safety. They've been in this program for 3-4 years, and they know what it takes to get the job done. You also got tremendous potential and ability on the field. You also got a couple known commodities up front. Bryce Dixon, C.J. Bazile, Britton Williams, another name to keep an eye on, defensive end. Then you got several, yes, defensive line can be a question mark. You know, it's a question mark for me right now, but there are a lot of pieces there. I don't think there's going to be a T.J. Bush that plays 90% of the snaps necessarily. Again, you got to stay healthy up front, which can always be a concern on the defensive line, but I don't think you'll have somebody playing 90% of the snaps. I think you'll see a lot of rotating of 8, 9, 10 guys on the defensive line, and you might not have any one guy that's a first-team all-conference type performer, but you'll have enough, hopefully, to get the job done. That is something that has kind of been a little bit of a struggle the last 2 years from this defense, is the defensive line being able to make pressure without having to blitz, pressure the opposing quarterback. So that's something we'll have to watch, right? Like, I mean, when you're, going and, scrimmage against your own guys, they don't let you touch the quarterback. So it's kind of hard to get a good read on that. Something we may not know about until we get into the season a few weeks. But I think the defensive line has enough guys to try to figure that out, try to solve that puzzle. But we still got to wait and see if they're going to solve that puzzle. It's been a little bit of a disappointment, the production from the defensive line in terms of sacks and QB pressures and hurries and things like that. So that's something we'll worry about. But I do think overall, Coach Chadwell talks confidently about this defense. We may need to lean on that defense, especially the first half of the season, when the offense is still trying to figure everything out and where everybody should be and what their role is on that side of the ball. So I think we got to pay attention to the defense. Another question mark here, which I thought was a good one that I wanted to talk about as we kind of wrap it up here, is how quickly can all these new players gel together? And that's going to be a question mark about every team in this NIL transfer portal world, where you're replacing at least 30% of your roster each year. So especially with a tough early schedule. I mean, you got week 2 at Jack State, like I said earlier, defending CUSA champs. Week 3, then you got a Bowling Green team who's been to a bowl game 3 straight years. Then you got JMU and ODU, obviously. So the longer it takes these guys to gel together, the more difficult of start you could have to the season. But if they can get it together, week 2 is obviously a crucial game at Jack State, a key, what could be a very key Conference USA battle for that championship race early in the season. So I do like that we get them early in the year, being that they got a new coaching staff and a lot of new systems and things like that. So anyways, appreciate you guys bringing those comments and questions, and I look forward to answering more of them as we get deeper into training camp. And we got 3 weeks or so till the season starts. Talk to you soon.